Welcome to the channel. Scientists are keeping a close eye on 3I Atlas because it has been doing some strange things since it arrived in the inner solar system. But now that it's here, they're seeing some even stranger things. What is happening? When it was first discovered back in February of 2022, this comet looked like your typical icy visitor from the outer solar system. It seemed to be just a small, fuzzy blob hurtling through space. But then scientists noticed something weird. The brightness of the comet was changing dramatically. One day it would be relatively bright and the next it would be almost invisible. And this kept happening over and over again. This unusual behavior suggested that the comet was made of something other than rock and ice, but that wasn't the only odd thing about it. Scientists also noticed that the shape of 3I Atlas was irregular. Comets are usually round, but this one was shaped more like a pancake. It looked kind of like an old shoe with one side being smooth and the other full of holes. To make matters even stranger, sometimes the comet would spin around faster and then slower for no apparent reason. These unusual features suggested that 3I Atlas was not your typical comet. So when it got closer to the sun, scientists were eager to find out what it was made of. As the comet approached its closest point to the sun, or perihelion, which occurred in early March, it became easier to observe, and that's when things really started to get weird. One of the most unusual things about 3I Atlas is its jets. Jets are bursts of gas and dust that shoot out from the surface of a comet. They form when the sun's energy vaporizes the ice and other volatiles on the surface of a comet, creating pockets of gas that build up pressure until they burst through the solid matter below. The jets of 3I Atlas, however, are unlike anything scientists have seen before. They are much more powerful than those of any other comet, blasting away huge chunks of material. These outbursts are so big that they are completely reshaping the comet. In fact, some scientists have estimated that the total mass ejected from the comet during these outbursts is equivalent to the mass of nearly 90 aircraft carriers. That's a lot of stuff coming out of a comet. What's even more remarkable is that the jets don't seem to be coming from the surface of the comet at all. They appear to be originating deep inside the nucleus, forcing their way to the surface and blasting it apart. This is totally unexpected behavior for a comet. Scientists had never seen anything like it before. The reason for this bizarre behavior is still a mystery, but some scientists speculate that it has to do with the shape of the comet. Remember that weird pancake-like shape we mentioned earlier? Well, it turns out that this is not just a quirky feature of 3I Atlas. It's actually a key part of what's going on. You see, the force of the jets is not constant. Instead, it varies depending on where they erupt from. When they erupt from the center of the comet, the force is weaker, but when they erupt from the edges, the force is stronger. This is because the material at the center of the comet has further to fall, increasing the force of the jet, while the material at the edges doesn't have as far to go. As a result, the jets are less powerful. Now, if the comet were perfectly round, this wouldn't be a problem, but it's not. The fact that it's shaped like a pancake means that there is a lot of material at the edges that can erupt along a thin layer in the middle. This creates an unstable situation where the jets blasting from the sides can easily outbalance each other, causing the comet to tumble, and that's exactly what's happening. The jets are so powerful that they're completely disrupting the structure of the comet, causing it to spin wildly out of control. But why does the comet have this pancake shape in the first place? Well, that's still a mystery, but it could have to do with the history of the comet. Some scientists speculate that 3I Atlas used to be a regular comet with a nice round shape, but then it collided with another object, perhaps a Kuiper belt object or an asteroid, which knocked it off course and left it in its current state. Others speculate that the comet was once part of a larger body that broke apart, leaving it with its oddly shaped nucleus. Whatever the reason, this pancake-like shape is clearly playing a major role in the bizarre behavior of 3I Atlas. But it's not the only thing going on. Another strange thing about this comet is its tail. You see, comets have two tails, a gas tail and a dust tail. The gas tail is formed by the gases that are released from the surface of the comet, while the dust tail is made of dust particles that are blown away by the solar wind. Now, the dust tail of a comet is usually pretty straightforward. It's just a big cloud of dust that follows behind the comet. But the gas tail can be a bit more complicated. In some cases, the gas tail splits into multiple streams, and that's exactly what's happening with 3I Atlas. The gas tail of this comet has split into 4 separate streams, and they're all moving in different directions. 2 of the streams are moving away from the comet at about 30 degrees relative to the axis of rotation of the comet, while the other 2 streams are moving in the opposite direction at about 60 degrees. This behavior is totally unprecedented, and scientists are still trying to figure out what's going on. Some speculate that it has to do with the shape of the comet. Remember that weird pancake-like shape we mentioned earlier? Well, it turns out that this could also play a role in the splitting of the gas tail. You see, the gas tail of a comet is formed by the gases that are released from the surface of the comet. But the surface of 3I Atlas is not flat. It's got all those weird bumps and divots caused by the outbursts and the tumbling. This means that the gases are not being released in a nice even flow. Instead, they're coming out in different directions, creating the 4 separate streams. Whatever the reason, this splitting behavior is just one more piece of evidence that 3I Atlas is not a normal comet. So what's the deal with 3I ATLAs? Is it a comet or is it something else entirely? Well, it's still too early to say for sure, but one thing is clear. This is not your average visitor from the outer solar system. It's doing things that have never been seen before, and it's giving scientists a rare opportunity to study a truly unique object. As 3I Atlas continues its journey through the inner solar system, researchers will continue to monitor its outbursts, its tumbling, and its splitting tail in hopes of unlocking the secrets of this mysterious visitor. Who knows what other strange things it might do next? Maybe you've heard of other comets like Halley's Comet or Halley-Bopp. What about Comet Neowise? That was an amazing comet that passed the Earth in 2020. I remember seeing it with my own eyes. It was a beautiful sight. Have you ever seen a comet? Let us know your thoughts. We've been exploring the solar system and beyond for years now. If you want to learn more about the latest discoveries and missions to Mars, Jupiter and beyond, then subscribe for more updates. There's always something new to discover in the vast expanse of our solar system. This comet has no right to exist. What's up everyone? I'm here. And today we are talking about 3I ATLAS, a comet that's coming up on its close approach to the Sun in September. There are 3 things that you need to know about this comet, which is a bit ironic because it's got a name that sounds like it should have 3, but really has more like 7. It was discovered recently. It's bigger than expected and it may be artificial. Alright, 3 things. Let's do this. First off, this object isn't a comet, not officially anyway. Comets are made of ice and dust. They're dirty snowballs that get all fuzzy when they near the Sun. This object is a rocky body covered in soot, a very dirty snowball, if you will. So astronomers refer to it as a comet because it looks like one, and it's behaving like one. But technically it's a small body. It's just a rock in space. It doesn't have a tail, but it does have gas jets erupting from it as it approaches the Sun. So there's something going on for sure. It was first sighted on February 28th of 2023 by the Zwicky Transient Facility at Caltech in Southern California. If you've heard of Palomar Observatory, it's on the same mountain but a few miles away. Since then, it's been tracked by lots of observatories around the world and even by some amateur astronomers. The reason that it's been tracked so closely is because it's coming up on a close encounter with the Sun. It'll pass within about 11 million miles of Earth on February 2024. That's close enough that if it were an asteroid instead of a comet, that would be considered a near-Earth object. And if it were any closer, NASA would be considering planetary defense strategies, probably moving it into the Sun. But for now, we're just along for the ride. And what a ride it will be. As it passes Earth, it'll be only about 300 feet across the sky. It'll be easier to see than the full moon and almost as bright as Venus. Now, it's not going to be as easy to spot as the planet Mercury, which is smaller and way brighter. But if you don't have binoculars or a telescope, this is something that you can easily make out with just your eyes alone. I wouldn't expect it to look like the planet Venus, though comets are notoriously unpredictable. They do weird stuff and they're hard to model. The most famous comet of our generation, Comet Neowise, was only about half as bright as Mercury when it passed Earth in 2020, but it had a tail that spanned 10 whole arc minutes across the sky. That is equivalent to holding your thumb up at arm's length and covering up 10 whole US states. That's big. 3I Atlas won't have anything like that though. More than likely it'll just be a bright little point of light. Now, despite its recent discovery, astronomers already know quite a lot about this comet, and that's mainly because it's coming from the outer solar system. Most comets come from a place called the Oort cloud, a theoretical sphere of icy rocks surrounding our solar system's heliosphere, the bubble of influence created by our star. If you could see the Oort cloud, it would appear to be humongous, over 100 times the distance between the Sun and Pluto. As far as we know, every comet that comes into the inner solar system comes from here, except 3I ATLAS. Its trajectory tells us that it came from the outer reaches of our local stellar neighborhood. This is the first interstellar visitor that we've had in our neck of the woods. But there's a catch here. All current observations, including those from Hubble, point to this comet being about 500 feet across. That's the size of a city block. It's way too small to be causing the effects that we're seeing. Small bodies like this shouldn't be able to produce the jets that this comet has. So astronomers are looking at 3 possible explanations. First off, this could be a fragment from another system. A big planet somewhere out there could have kicked something out of orbit and sent it flying through space. That's how interstellar objects enter our solar system all the time. About 6,000 meteorites found on Earth were once part of a dwarf planet called Vesta that was destroyed by a collision in the asteroid belt. But if that happened, why did this object break apart? There would have needed to be some kind of catastrophic event. We're talking a collision with something the size of Mars, but there's nothing nearby. No other star systems are anywhere close enough to cause such destruction. So this rules out the first hypothesis. That leaves us with 2 other options. The second hypothesis is that this is a fragment that broke off of something much larger. 3. Atlas might be a chunk of something bigger that's still out there. This is like a chunk of an iceberg still floating around after the ship has sunk. But again, where is the rest of this thing? If it was a fragment, it would have broken off of something large. Something big would have needed to have hit it and knocked it out of orbit. But there's nothing nearby that could have caused such destruction. So that rules out the second hypothesis. And that leaves us with the third option. What if this thing didn't come from somewhere else? What if it was made here? What if it's artificial? This is basically a spaceship. It could be a hunk of space junk or a discarded rocket stage or a defunct satellite or even a military drone. If you want to get crazy, it could be an alien probe exploring our solar system or a piece from a larger alien vessel that's orbiting our sun. I mean, if there's any civilization out there that has mastered faster than light travel, it would make sense that they would scout out potential new homes before jumping whole galaxies. Now, this idea has been thrown around before, especially with the first interstellar object that entered our solar system, Oumuamua. That one was long and cigar-shaped, which led many to believe that it was a military craft. It could have been a discarded rocket stage from an alien vessel that left it in our solar system to study us, while we figure out how to stop picking our noses in public. But when the world's largest space agencies started claiming that it was just a big rock, most people stopped talking about it. But that was a different case. With 3I Atlas, we're actually seeing evidence that there could be something going on. The thing is, based on what we currently know, this comet should be falling into the sun. Its trajectory takes it well inside the orbit of Jupiter and does on to bring it back out into deep space. Normally a body like this would have been flung farther out into space, maybe into the Oort cloud or even farther. Instead, it's heading towards certain doom. For some reason, its orbit is taking it inside the orbit of Venus. At that point, the sun's gravity will start slowing it down. It'll begin to heat up and it'll disintegrate. But if it's artificial, then someone put it in that orbit on purpose. Now again, this is pure speculation on my part. There's no real proof that this is artificial, but it's fun to think about, because if this is a ship, then what's it doing? Is it studying us? Did it land? Is it coming back out of the solar system now that it's done? Was it sent to deliver something or pick something up? Does it have a crew? I mean, if it's a military craft, it probably doesn't have a crew, but maybe it does. Maybe it's piloted by an AI or a single test subject that's been awake for decades, who knows? All of these questions are ones that we're going to be able to answer soon. We have 6 months until this thing makes its closest approach to the sun. In about 4 months, it's going to pass within just a few 100,000 miles of Earth. NASA is going to be using the world's largest and most powerful telescopes to observe it in detail. They'll be looking for features, maybe even signs of movement. And when it finally makes its closest approach to the sun in September, they're going to watch it live disintegrate. If there's anything interesting going on, they'll find it. So if you like this story, make sure you stay tuned. This is a channel that explores the frontiers of science, technology, and space. I make videos about the James Webb Space Telescope, upcoming missions to Mars and Titan, discoveries on other planets, cool new rockets, and more. You can also check out my podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Every week I take you into my solar system and beyond to explore the frontier of space and the amazing discoveries that we're remaking out there. We discuss everything from exoplanets to starships, black holes to space lore, and so much more. This month we're doing a series of special episodes on interstellar travel. Until next time, I'm here. And remember, the universe is under your control.